Oh, you found me. Hello. Yes, welcome to my channel. My name is Jake Monroe, and I saw Terrifier 3. So I'm gonna tell you all about it. There will be spoilers in this, but I will give you a heads up before they actually appear. Mainly because I feel like I'm obliged to warn some of you what is in this movie, but I also really want to talk in depth about all the good things this movie does. The things this movie does so well, and also the stuff it does not do well at all. And you would think this balance would create an okay movie. No, it doesn't. It creates a wonderfully unbalanced viewing experience where some moments have you nodding off and other moments have you laughing and crying and screaming and retching at the same time. Did a wonderfully gory concept like Terrifier need to be more than just that? Let's discuss. Now, I'm not gonna delve too far into Terrifier 1 and 2 here because, quite frankly, I feel like the lore that's in Terrifier 3 would honestly surprise the people who made Terrifier 1 and 2 because it really does have this sense of we're making this up as we go along kind of thing. In fact, one of the entire characters is not going to make any sense unless you saw the end credit scene from the second movie, which I will now educate you on. Now, I was in the middle of writing a script for this, and then I went to Wikipedia to fill in some of my gaps of knowledge, and it turns out they have a wonderfully written synopsis of the plot anyway, so I'm just going to read that. Spoilers immediately for Terrifier 2. After Art the Clown gets his head cut off at the end of the second movie, the headless corpse of Art the Clown decides to go on a little stroll. Look at that, I'm paraphrasing anyway. To go to an asylum where Victoria Hayes is. Yes, from the first movie. Why did he go there? Because if you didn't see the credit scene, or the end credit scene from the second movie, she gets possessed. By who? This little girl. Apparently. See what I mean? It's all over the place. Now, I will forgive you if you don't immediately know all of this information, even if you have seen all three of these movies, because quite frankly, they don't do a very good job at conveying any of the plot. It's like playing Bloodborne, where the plot is subtextual and off-screen. The demonic little girl who is now in the body of the disfigured Victoria Hayes from the first movie, but also in the credit scene of the second movie, now gives birth to the new head for Art the Clown, of which his decapitated body is so desperately searching for. And that's how the movie begins. That's how we are reintroduced to Art the Clown. That's why he's back again. But is that the only thing that happens at the beginning of the movie? Oh no. And here we're gonna start talking immediately about some of the things that appear in the movie itself, because I feel like I'm obliged to warn you. First of all, this movie wanted to really make an impression. Reward you for not going into Joke 2 and instead seeing Art the Clown. Arguably a far more entertaining clown. There's no way you could argue that Joker 2 was better. This is better. Even though they're not even the same genre. This one's better. If Joker 2 was good, who's to say the success of this movie? But that's speculation. Now immediately, I am confused as to the release date of this movie. Of course, we are deep in the bosom of spooky season, and this is a Christmas movie. Yes, the whole thing takes place during Christmas. So why it came out now, I don't know. I feel like it probably could have had more success than it did. Do you know what? Maybe that doesn't matter at all. I don't know, it feels confusing. I feel like there was a lot of effort put into the set design and also theming some of the kills, you know, as Santa themed, because there are some Santa themed deaths. Pretty great. Yes, a lot of effort was put into making this movie very Christmassy. It's a very Christmassy movie right down to the soundtrack. Every single set, every scene is rife with red and green. And I'm rhyming now. So why, oh why, did they decide to release this prior to Halloween? But hey, maybe the director or the production studio or the distribution team or whoever decided on the release date thought that, we kind of needed something to balance out Joker 2. I know I'm ripping on Joker 2 a lot. It's a terrible movie. That's why. But yes, the creators of this wonderful gore fest decided to really introduce this movie with a bang by having Art the Clown visit a cute little family on Christmas, or a few days prior, because they do somehow put in that it's not actually Christmas. It's like 3 or 4 days or something prior to Christmas Day. And this is where there's gonna be an immediate spoiler because some people, especially parents, might not leave the cinema feeling super dope about this next part. And you've probably seen it on Twitter because people are complaining about it on Twitter because, yeah, it's pretty scary. But Art the Clown brutally murders a child off screen. And you're like, whew, off screen. Well, at least we don't have to see that. Oh no, it's actually worse. You hear it. You get to listen to it. Yeah. No, I'm not going to go through every single scene and describe them in detail. The opening scene is of particular note, so I'm describing it because it's kind of like the crowning achievement of the whole movie. It's paced really well. It is. They were probably itching for a little bit of killing, but it does have a nice amount of build-up, you know? The woman's on the bed, you're ready to go, but let's take our time here. So yes, the child is killed. Not on screen, but it's not really that much better. The opening scene is Art the Clown absolutely eviscerating, destroying, disemboweling, decapitating, and something an entire family on Christmas Eve. I think it's 3 days before. And me personally, I thought that was a fantastic way to open up Terrifier 3 because that's what people wanted. Now let's talk about the rest of the movie. There are 4 main reasons why you would keep watching this movie. I mean, there's one reason why you'd go to watch it, but there are 4 reasons why you keep watching it while you're watching it, and I'm gonna go through those now. Reason the first, the gore. Let's talk about that. The gore is absolutely splendid, rife with that 80s visual effects that only fake blood and prosthetics can deliver. It's everything you want, and it's all the time. So the gore is well-paced, consistent, and never gets boring because Art the Clown always finds a way to keep it exciting with all his different tools and toys and tricks. And this gore never stops, even until the end. You're like, wow, with an opening like that, there's no way they're gonna be able to get anywhere close to that the rest of the movie. Wrong! You're wrong. You're wrong immediately. But yes, the anatomical detail in the gore is what really interests me. Now, if anyone out there is the same as me, and you're a huge fan of Mortal Kombat because of the surgical accuracy, almost, of all of the gore and fatalities, then you will appreciate the gore that's in this movie. There is a lot of detail in regards to the dismemberment, to the torture. And these are things that are missing from some of our other more recent gore fests that have splattered into the mainstream over the last couple of decades. Like Final Destination, for example, which is terrible. You see, in other gore movies, to sort of separate the audience from this horrible sense of dread from watching someone die on screen, they kind of get a little bit silly with the innards and the guts and the blood and the bones and all that kind of stuff. You kind of stop believing it because you're like, people don't look like that inside. We're fine. That's not real. And Final Destination was a real big offender of this. A lot of the gore that happened was just kind of stupid. Real stupid. Why would that happen to a person? Do you know about anatomy? Probably not. That, however, is not a discrepancy that is present in Terrifier 3. There was most likely an entire surgical team present for consultation to talk about what veins and bones and organs would be there. What would their consistency be? What color would they be if they suddenly started flying in the air like fireworks? So not only is the gore frequent and consistent, it's also detailed and real. It's not a snuff film. I mean, it's like prosthetics and fake blood. It's almost entirely prosthetics and fake blood, which is great. There's almost no visual effects in the movie at all. And that is one of the things that I truly love about Terrifier. All 3 of the movies have that 80s silly, stupid gore fest quality that we all loved. That's why those movies were so big back then. And I feel like it's making a big comeback now. And Terrifier is doing it right. What's the other one that's good? Sienna makes a reappearance again as the main character, I guess. And I'm gonna use Sienna and the actress that plays her as an opportunity to describe the acting in this movie. And possibly also the dialogue, because these things need to be mentioned. They do. The acting is not on the list of good things that Terrifier does, which is why Sienna is on my one of the reasons why you continue watching list. Portrayed by Lauren Lovera, she gives a very strong, professional movie quality performance that you kind of become comfortable watching, and it's a very familiar quality that you would find from a usual cinema experience watching far higher paid actors in far bigger budget movies. And this is why I feel like it's notable, because bad acting, since the director and the writers are insisting on having a plot in these movies now that they consistently change, her believable performance allows you to immerse yourself in the world of Terrifier, which only makes the gore more horrifying. Because if you have no connection to any of the characters, if you have no connection to any of the lore or the world building, you don't care. You're just sitting there watching someone get shredded to pieces. And trust me, some of the people who get shredded to pieces are not the best actors. So I can only imagine they're doing it for our benefit, so that they don't get a lot of screen time. Thanks. But yes, Lauren actually gives a very believable and enjoyable performance. She conveys the PTSD that she developed from the second movie in this one very well. And I feel like if the lead actress was not as strong as Lauren was, I feel like people would find themselves getting a little bit bored between the art, the clown sections. So I feel like Lauren really does need to have some accolades here. She needs to be commended, because her acting was going to be make or break for me. Because this movie's 2 hours long, okay? There's a plot to this now. It's not like the first movie where they're just running around an abandoned building that they were able to rent for a weekend. No, there's like subtext, and there's other plots going on, and there's dialogue now. Not very good dialogue. Not very good dialogue, but there is dialogue in the movie. And it is conveyed and performed as well as Lauren is able to do with the source material. And here's my problem with some of the dialogue, because I am going to mention this right now. Dialogue is starting to tip from ridiculous parody into, oh, we might actually have a plot here. And because the needle is sort of in between these two things, it's not hitting well. There are moments where you feel like the director and the writers are seriously trying to portray a very real and serious plotline alongside the ridiculousness that is Art the Clown, which I think is a wonderfully effective juxtaposition. It works, or it could. The problem is that a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the script is not great. There are moments where you can't believe that someone has just said something in the way that they did in response to another actor's line. You're like, that's not how people would react there. And I know that people are gonna say, it's like, oh, but Jake, it's just a silly gore slasher, but they're definitely trying to have some sort of convoluted plot line here. So which one is it? Is it a silly gore slasher fest where you don't take anything seriously, or is it a gore slasher fest with a serious plot line? You can't have both. Because there are moments that I was watching it and I was really entertained by the sense of Sienna being some sort of superhero somehow. Still hasn't been explained. Her dad disappearing. Still hasn't been explained. We're on the third movie now. Where's daddy? But there are also moments while I'm watching it as well and just thinking like, is they still trying to, is this serious? Are we still meant to be like following this? But what I will say about this movie as opposed to the second movie, Terrifier 3 definitely has a far more consistent cast of good actors, and the bad ones are few and far between. And if they are between or not that far away, then they're being killed, which is great. Now, let's talk about the third reason why this movie is actually worth sticking around the entire 2 hours to watch. Trust me, take a sick bag if you think you can't handle the gore, because you will want to stick around. Because there's entertaining moments in there. Vicki. Oh yes. The out of left field character Vicki, portrayed by Samantha Scafidi, is probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. We'll discuss the fourth one soon. But Samantha's portrayal as Vicki, I think probably has the contender for one of the best performances in the whole movie. And if you're confused as to who the hell Victoria Hayes is and why she's even in this movie, that's not your fault. Because if you missed the credits scene from the end of Terrifier 2, you won't know why she's here. Now, there are two things that I love about Vicki, and I'm gonna get into those now, but here's Victoria Hayes from the first movie. And other than the brother and sister, Sienna and Jonathan, she's the only one who's managed to survive coming across Art the Clown. Well, she did, her face didn't. The reason why I like Vicki is the prosthetics. Her face is horrifying. Because here's what they could have done. They could have done something that doesn't look human at all. Something that looks out of this world. Something otherworldly. But they didn't do that. No, instead, what they decided to do was actually something very human. Human disfigurement. And it definitely hits on that kind of realistic body horror that I think disturbs a lot of people, including myself, which is why I like it. Now, we've all seen those tragic cases on the internet and also on TV where a survivor of something extremely traumatic tells their story, and their face, or what's left of it, is horribly traumatizing to look at. And I know that sounds kind of unfair to say, but it is scary. It is. The fact that human beings can go through such torment and still live, that's a scary thing for people to witness. The fact that people can be so disfigured and still living, that's a horrible reality to imagine. And Vicki's disfigurement in this movie rings true to this realistic sense of human disfigurement that we have seen at some point in our lives on TV or on the internet, of people sharing their story of how they nearly died. It's not otherworldly. It's not supernatural looking or demonic. No, it's just what a human woman's face would look like if parts of it were eaten off. And that sort of allows the viewer to have this sense of immersion into this world because it doesn't look ridiculous. It looks relatively realistic in terms of what would happen. Now, the second reason why I like Vicki's character is she could have given a lukewarm performance. It could have been half-assed. It could have been cringe. But no, you pair this fantastic prosthetic, this incredible character design, with an even better performance from Samantha, and you get one of the most enjoyable characters that I've seen in quite some time. Vicki's great. Vicki's horrifying, but Vicki's great. And on top of it being a good performance, it's consistent all the way up until the end of the movie. In fact, especially at the end of the movie, Vicki really gets time to perform with other actors because most of the time Vicki's on her own, or she's interacting with Art the Clown, who we know doesn't talk. But Vicki gets a moment to shine at the end of the movie when she's actually interacting with other characters who can talk back, with characters that she actually has a connection with because that's why she's there. And she is absolutely horrifying, from the body language to the voice. The voice delivery is incredible. So well done, Samantha Scafidi. You did a fantastic job with Vicki, and I was thoroughly entertained. Even though your character barely makes sense, I think we can overlook that. And I feel like that really does represent the true nature of Terrifier. A lot of the characters and a lot of the acting and a lot of the plot lines are so intriguing, you kind of overlook some of the plot holes and discrepancies. Now we're going to get into the fourth and final reason as to why this movie is such an anticipated watch for me, and was also the main reason why I was laughing my ass off through this entire movie. And that's Art the Clown. Now, Art the Clown is portrayed by David Howard Thornton, who's a wonderfully sweet dude, and he is blowing up all over social media right now because he's doing his Art the Clown thing in public and at conventions, and he's also, giving talks on how amazing it is to be a part of, this whole experience, which, great for him. But because he's so present right now, and he's such a sweet, nice dude, I'm trying not to remember that guy while I'm watching Terrifier. Once again, Art the Clown is a completely mute character, doesn't say a word. And there's a couple of things I want to cover with Art the Clown because there are some good and some bad things. And David Howard Thornton is responsible for all the good things that comes out of Art the Clown. First of all, the performance, hilarious. The mime work, top level. The commitment to the maniacal gore and murder scenes and the torture scenes, fantastic. It's almost as if these fake prosthetics, the fake blood, all of the props, the sets, the costume, it's like all of these things are an extension of David himself. I don't know how to explain this. No matter what Art the Clown does in this movie, with what he does it with, there's commitment there, and it truly feels like Art the Clown is enjoying what he's doing, which is hard to do whenever you're trying to hold a chainsaw in a certain way, or slice a machete in a certain way, or rip, a prosthetic body into pieces in a certain way so that, the blood and all the mechanisms work. There's a lot of thought going into the physical performance. So the fact that he's able to maintain character while doing all these things, because you can imagine that with someone's face being visible in a lot of these killing scenes, because what Art the Clown is based on is other famous killers from previous movies, like Michael Myers and, Jason Voorhees, who both wear masks and don't say anything. And I'm gonna make another comparison to those famous movie killers and Art the Clown a little bit later on, but first I want to talk more about the positives. I feel like a lot more emphasis has been put on Art the Clown being the most likable and most charming killer to never say a word on screen. He has a lot of screen time in this movie. He does. and a lot of it is killing. But there's also moments where Art the Clown just gets to convey his character. He builds it a little bit more. You get to know him a little bit more through his mannerisms and how he reacts to things. And the mime work in this and the way that he's able to convey comedy and what he's trying to say and communicate with the other characters who can talk, I don't think is an easy thing to do. It's quite a unique thing to do because with previous killers who don't talk, that kind of removes any need to interact with any of the other main characters, right? That makes it quite easy. Michael Myers don't talk, no need to talk. Just the walking and stabby. But without the clown, he does have a very deep level of communicating with all of the people that he kills and even some of the people that he doesn't, as well as communicating with Vicki as well. And he does that wonderfully through body language and facial expression without saying a word. So huge commendations to David for his portrayal, yet again, of Art the Clown. So what are the bad points about Art the Clown? Well, the way he's inconsistently written. That's my biggest problem with Art the Clown. What do you mean by that, Jake? Well, allow me to explain. Almost all of the great killers throughout cinematic history have an MO, a modus operandi, the mode in which they operate, a clearly distinctive and definable way to know that the killer has been here, and with what he killed his victim. With Michael Myers, again, it's the knife, it's the big knife. And with Jason, it's the machete. And with Krueger, it's the dreams and the claw glove, right? That's how they kill. That's what they do. Art seems to have trouble sticking to a single MO. There's no particular thing Art could pull out or do that would make people go, oh, there's his thing, that's his thing, that's the thing he does. Because it's always different. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Now, there's no real reason as to why Art is killing people. There isn't. There isn't. In fact, there's no explanation as to why he keeps popping up in places and the police never show up. It's really weird. But I'm not here to get into the plot holes. I'm here to get into Art the Clown and his character and what I would like to see more of later on in the series, because there's no doubt we are getting a Terrifier 4, especially with the success of this one and the setup from this one. Because when you see Art, you're like, okay, so he likes the saw. The saw is the thing that he like, oh no, it's a gun. He's got a gun now. Okay, well maybe it's saws, knives and guns and... Oh no, there's an explosive. Okay, so it's explosives. Okay, so then is he military? Is like, oh no, now there's liquid nitrogen. He's killing people with liquid nitrogen now. So he just kills people with literally anything, which does make for some extremely creative deaths, which we all love to see. And I know it could be argued that that's good. That it's not stale, that he doesn't just go around with a single saw, or a machete, or a knife, or a gun, or explosive. Like, he does everything. He comes up with fun, new inventive ways to kill people. But one thing is consistent and rings true through every movie is that he likes to get messy. If you think you're going to have an easy cleanup for any of the kills that Art does, you'd be wrong. And I think ultimately that is the MO, that is the calling card of Art the Clown, is that no matter what he uses, he's gonna make a mess. Now, what I would like to see from Terrifier 4 is a little more backstory. I'd like to see a little more explanation as to why Sienna is the way she is. What happened to her dad? Why make us wait so long? Especially considering that Terrifier had the possibility of not doing well and leaving a lot of loose ends. You'd think with the lack of certain success, because this movie definitely is B-movie. This movie is quite unique to get this big. This series of movies, it's quite unique to get this big. It is. It's in the mainstream. We're seeing this in cinemas. So we are so lucky to see the story this far. And it definitely does feel like the writers, then the director and the producers also maybe didn't expect it to get this far, which is why even in this movie, there are things that are just popping up out of nowhere. Complete ass pulls. Stuff that were not in previous movies that just didn't seem to make any sense. And there were things that were portrayed at the end of Terrifier 3 that still don't make any sense. There's no explanation for it. So we're gonna have to see the fourth movie, which I know there's gonna be a fourth one because the sequel bait is there and this movie did extremely well. So I'd be surprised if there wasn't. If you are looking for a silly fun time with lots of really, really good gore, really good stuff, if you're a big gore fan and you want some good high-budget gore, and lots of it, definitely go watch this movie. This has everything that you want. If you're looking for something to really get your teeth into in terms of lore, world building, plot. I think you might struggle in that department in this movie. You definitely do have to go into this movie with the assumption that you're gonna pretty much ignore almost everything all the characters say at any time. Because while there are moments that really do feel like it's working towards something serious, it's like, wow, this could be a contender for one of the greats, man. We could be talking about Art the Clown 40 years from now, in the same breath that we mentioned Freddy Krueger and all them other lot. Then maybe this movie's not gonna be that interesting. Now, how do I feel about it? I mean, it's a solid 3 out of 5. I mean, it's a solid 6.5, 7 out of 10. You know, it has the gore. The gore is so good, and some of the characters are like Art the Clown. The reason why we even have Terrifier is because Art the Clown himself was so entertaining, they had to make more. Seriously, that's how this happened. Audiences found Art the Clown so endearing, so funny, so charming, that they wanted more of him. And I feel like the producers and the writers and the director are trying to build a world around a simple clown killer concept, and they're making it up as they go along. I know they are. There was no forethought, there was no planning for this kind of movie to be a series. There was nothing really there. He's just a clown and he kills. Let's focus on the gore, people. Focus on the gore. But people want more than that. And I feel like they are struggling to deliver that aspect. And whenever they do try to fill in some of these lore moments, it's not done very well. There were moments where I had to go check online to see what was going on in the movie because I was like, wait, why is she there? Who is this? How did that get there? Why is she here? What is she talking about? Because a lot of things kind of just don't happen on screen, and it's really weird. And it's one of the reasons why I've not discussed the plot in this movie, because honestly, the plot was not something I was going to watch this movie for. None of us are. So I recommend you go and watch Terrifier 3. For the gore, if nothing else. If you do find some entertainment in any of the dialogue or the plot, then great. Then you'll get even more enjoyment out of it than most people will. And I can definitely appreciate that they have tried. And they are trying, and I hope it gets better. But right now it doesn't matter. Because David, you're killing it, man. You are killing it. And other people. You're killing people and it. Not David the actor. David as Art in this fictional universe is killing people. He might be killing people. Do you know what? Scratch that. I have no evidence for that. He could. There's just no evidence of that. So yes, I've been Jake Monroe. Thanks for stopping by. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.